presence with us. Know that you will lead us to do great things. Therefore, Lord, gathering, lead us, send us. So prayer. Our in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Kingdom come. Your will be done on earth as it is. Give us this day our daily bread. We forgive those that trespass. Is not into temptation. Us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory.
Please have the measures first. This House is in session. Minutes of the meeting held on Tuesday, 20th March, 2023 to be deferred.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the aforesaid minutes be deferred.
Seconder. The question is that the aforementioned minutes be deferred. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting, the ayes have it. The aforementioned minutes are hereby deferred.
Announcements by Your Honor, Speaker. Messages from Her Excellency the President, petitions, papers. Papers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am commanded to lay the Supreme Court Master of the High Court Salary Order 2023. I'm also commanded to lay the Ombudsman Salary Order 2023 and the Parliament Administration Salary Order 2023.
Government notices.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice of a resolution to grant the sum of $28,100,000 from the Consolidated Fund and to place it at the disposal of the government to supplement the estimates 2022-2023 as shown in supplementary estimates number 8, 2022-2023.
Private members' notices, notices of questions, reports from select committees, first readings of bills.
Honourable Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the first reading of the Child Justice Bill 2023, as well as the first reading of the Water Reuse Bill 2023.
Beg to second that.
The question is that the aforementioned bills be read a first time. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting, the ayes have it.
Statements by ministers, congratulatory and/or obituary speeches, personal explanations, motions for leave of absence, oral replies to questions, notices of motions for the adjournment of the House on matters of urgent public importance, orders of the day.
Honourable Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the suspension of standing orders 6, 16, 18, 20, 42, subsection 5, 43, and 44 for the remainder of the day's sitting.
The question is that the aforementioned standing orders be suspended for the remainder of the day's sitting. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. The aforementioned standing orders are hereby suspended for the remainder of the day's sitting. Honourable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to request the leave of the House in accordance with Section 55 of the Standing Orders for the water reuse bill, which is at order number 2, which was previously, notice was given on the 8th of February. The bill was read a first time on the 8th as well, and the bill was published in the Official Gazette on the 10th of February 2022. So I therefore beg to move that we withdraw the bill in accordance with Section 55.
Question that the aforementioned bill be withdrawn. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it. The aforementioned bill is withdrawn.
Government business, sir.
Government business is the order of the day. Thanks.
Order number 14, sir. In the name of the Honourable Leader of the House, to move that the House resolve itself into Standing Finance Committee to consider the grant of sums of money for the service of this island.
Understanding for them. How to get the chairman of the committee. Honourable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move that you do not leave the chair and that the House resolve itself into Standing Finance Committee.
The question is that the Speaker do not leave the chair and the House resolve itself into Standing Finance Committee. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it.
This House is now in Standing Finance Committee.
Mr. Chairman, in the name of the Honourable Leader of the House, to move the passing of a resolution to grant the sum of $28,100,000 from the Consolidated Fund and to place it at the disposal of the government to supplement the estimates 2022 to 2023 as shown in the supplementary estimates number 8, 2022 to 2023, which form the schedule to the resolution. Head 27, Ministry of Tourism and International Transport, in the amount of $5 million.
Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central.
Thank you very much, Chair. You recall, sir, that the Honourable Prime Minister, in delivering the budget statement during the second reading of the appropriation bill, indicated that the government was going to provide some resources to be able to resuscitate regional travel, given that last summer, post-COVID, and the demise of regional airlift, that the government intended to ensure that we did not experience a similar, experience anything similar this year that we experienced last year. And therefore, these sums of monies here is to support the BTMI, Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc., specifically, to be able to put sufficient airlift into the regional market in order to be able to kickstart and have a reasonable summer. By all indications, the ministry has indicated that from a summer cruising perspective, that the numbers and the forward bookings look strong for the summer, and therefore we want to ensure that from the airlift side as it relates to the region, that we have the capacity to be able to bring regional tourism back to Barbados, such that we can enjoy a strong summer performance. And therefore, Mr. Chairman, I beg to move then that Head 27 stand part.
The question is that Head 27 stand part. All honourable members in favour, say aye. Honourable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 31, Ministry of Industry, Innovation, Science and Technology, in the amount of $2 million.
Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central.
Thank you very much, Chair. The Honourable Prime Minister indicated that the push with respect to enhancing the fashion industry in Barbados, we will provide some resources to augment what the Barbados Industrial Development Corporation is doing in collaboration with the National Culture Foundation to be able to help provide that impetus such that persons who are participating within the fashion industry, designers, sir, and the like, that we are able to enhance what they're doing, which is consistent, sir, with the overarching policy of the government to drive exports. And therefore, these $2 million here are being placed at the BIDC to essentially backstop, if you like, sir, and finance some of the sampling and supplying issues in being able to ensure that designers can get their products sampled such that when they go to the various trade shows, sir, that they have the capacity to be able to have the orders filled such that they're able to actually achieve what they want to achieve with respect to growth. And so, sir, with those very few words, I beg to move to Head 31, stand part.
The question is that Head 31 stand part. All honourable members in favour, say aye. Honourable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 86, Ministry of Health and Wellness, in the amount of $5,500,000.
Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central.
Thank you very much, Chair. These sums of monies here indicated, allocated here, sir, are to support the expansion of the Accident and Emergency Department at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, sir. So this was announced by the Prime Minister again, sir, in the budget. And I'm sure that Barbadians who have had to utilize the facilities over the last year or so would have seen an improvement In terms of the physical plant, we now need to ensure that we can complete the entire space such that the flow and the logistics around the expansion can really redound to the benefit of enhancement of care for citizens. And therefore, these sums of monies are to accelerate the implementation of the finalization of that so that Barbadians can see an improved service at A&E, whilst obviously the QEH and the Ministry of Health will work on the broader objectives in terms of the delivery of health care. And so, sir, I beg to move that Head 86 stand part.
The question is that Head 86 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, we say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 91, Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment, in the amount of $12,600,000.
Honorable member for Christchurch East Central.
Thank you very much, Chair. In the budget, the Honourable Prime Minister indicated that we will be embarking on a program which is going to support community sports in collaboration with the National Sporting Federations. And $3 million, sir, have been allocated to be able to help support the implementation of that program. So between the National Sports Council and the various federations. And $9.6 million, sir, to be able to create the mini stadia around the country in order to ensure that we build not just the capacity, but being able to ensure then that we can effectively, as far as possible, sir, create the opportunity to monetize as much of the participation as possible, such that whilst we are building and the capacity within the sporting space, that persons will have the facilities within the communities to be able to stage various events. It would be remiss of me, sir, not to indicate that clearly today being the culmination of sports, I want to wish all the athletes, sir, a healthy participation in the activities today. I urge all of them to strongly represent their various schools as best as they can, sir. But this government is intended to ensure that we build further capacity within the space in order to make sure that within the communities, sports can take place in a more organized way, closer to people, and therefore being able to work with the federations and putting capacity in will help to be able to deliver that specific mandate. And so, sir, with those very few words, I beg to move to Head 91, stand part.
The question is that Head 91 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 93, Ministry of Housing, Lands and Maintenance.
Honorable member for Christchurch East Central.
In the amount of $3 million.
Thank you, Chair. These monies are to help support, sir, the NHC with respect to some of the operational expenses. The public will be aware that a lot of resources have been provided not just directly from central government, but equally through the catastrophe fund to be able to help respond to the challenges, not just the NHC, but RDC and UDC have been undertaking over the last few years. And these monies, sir, $3 million, are going to further support the operation of the NHC in relation to the execution of its mandate. And so with those few words, I'd beg to move to Head 93, stand part.
The question is that Head 93 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, we say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Report.
Chair, I beg to move that you do not report to His Honor the Speaker the passing of one money resolution in Standing Finance Committee.
The question is that I do not report to His Honor the Speaker the passing of one money resolution in Standing Finance Committee. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, we say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
The chairman has reported on the passing of one money resolution in Standing Finance Committee. We'll do first and second reading and third reading. 1, 2, 3. First, second, and third. Honourable Leader, Government Business.
Speaker, I beg to move that the resolution be read a first time.
Question that the resolution be read a first time. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Speaker, I beg to move that the resolution be read a second time.
Questions that the resolution be read a second time. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Speaker, I beg to move that the resolution be now agreed to.
The question that the resolution be now agreed to. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. This resolution stands passed.
Mr. Speaker, we commit to statements by ministers.
Honourable Member Sir Peter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, over many years, allegations have been made of unacceptable people management practices in various sectors of the economy. In recent decades, it has been particularly acute in the construction industry. The allegations include rates of pay by some companies that are lower than rates generally paid in the sector, the engaging of workers under the guise of subcontracting when the workers are really employees, not making deductions of contributions for a national insurance scheme as required by law, not paying the employer amounts to the national insurance scheme, deducting contract retention, which is a matter that relates only to contractors, from the wages of employees, forcing employees to procure and pay for their own uniforms, among others. For clarity, retention amounts are withheld by those who engage contractors as a safeguard for good work. There is normally a period attached to the retention provision so that a contract may include a retention of 5% for a period of 3 months. And during that 3-month period, the individual or organization that has engaged the contractor will inspect the work and ensure that it is of an acceptable standard. And this is known as snagging. The retention period is also the time when the contractor is able to complete matters that were his responsibility, but that may have been overlooked. As a party in government, we are conscious of and closely aligned to our roots. Those roots lying in the work of the now Right Excellent Sir Grantley Herbert Adams, and he and his colleagues fight on behalf of workers for decent conditions of work and reasonable rates of pay. That rooting ever in the forefront of our minds, we determined on coming to office that we could not allow this state of affairs to continue. The actions taken so far by government in the protection of workers. We set about discharging our moral responsibility in 2020 when Parliament debated and passed the Employment Prevention of Discrimination Act. This legislation was enacted to ensure that the diversity of workers in Barbados was respected and that they were protected against discrimination on the grounds of race, origin, political opinion, trade union affiliation, color, creed, sex, sexual orientation, social status, marital status, domestic partnership status, pregnancy, maternity, family responsibility, medical condition, disability, age, or physical feature, subject to situations that involve genuine occupational qualification, unjustifiable hardship, measures intended to achieve equality, care of minors, religious bodies and educational institutions administered in accordance with particular religious beliefs. In 2021, the Cabinet established for the first time in the country's history a national minimum wage of $8.50 per hour, as well as a sectoral minimum wage for security officers at $9.25 per hour. This was influenced by the advocacy and work of the Barbados Workers Union, as well as the shop stewards of G4S. Establishing the national minimum wage was done recognizing that even in the middle of a pandemic, workers and their families were being severely impacted by rising prices and the imported inflation that is its principal driver. The rate used by many employers as the floor prior to the establishment of the national minimum wage was the wage rate set by virtue of the Shops Act for the category of workers known as shop assistants, that rate being $6.25 per hour. We did not stop there. Government, recognizing that while the Safety and Health at Work Act provided for establishing regulations to address in greater detail and give greater clarity in certain matters identified in the Act, there were no regulations. In 2022, we gazetted 8 regulations. These regulations cover noise, workstations, personal protective equipment, general duties, drinking water, sanitary conveniences, and washing facilities. A regulation was also gazetted to address the plight of one of the groups of workers we considered as a forgotten group, workers at fuel stations. This particular regulation, medical supervision, mandates that workers at fuel stations are entitled to certain medical tests on an annual basis at no cost to themselves. These, Mr. Speaker, represent some of what government has done to recognize the value of workers and protect them as they seek to be engaged, productive citizens who are able to lead fulfilling lives for their own benefit and the benefit of their dependents. This government operates on the principle that policy is one of the options at its disposal as it seeks to manage the affairs of state. The setting of a national minimum wage was one policy option to do right by the people of this country. Additionally, government has taken the position that those benefiting from contracts paid for by the public purse, that is to say, the taxpayers of this country, must be held to the highest standards with respect to the rates of pay and the conditions of work offered to their workers. We therefore turned our attention to the Labor Clauses Public Contracts Act, Cap 349 of the laws of Barbados. The Labor Clauses Public Contracts Act, Cap 349, was passed in 1952 under then Premier Grantley Adams, and last amended in 1976 under then Prime Minister JMGM Tom Adams. The provisions of the Act closely mirror the articles of the International Labour Standard Convention C-94, which is titled Labour Clauses, Public Contracts Convention 1949, which was ratified by Barbados on the 8th of May, 1967. The purpose of Cap 349 and Convention 94. The Act, Cap 349, serves to address certain terms and conditions of work for persons engaged in employment where the employment is directly related to construction, alteration, repair or demolition of public works, the manufacture, assembly, handling, or shipment of materials, supplies, or equipment, and the performance of supply of services under a contract with any ministry, department, or agency of government, including secondary schools. The provisions of the Act include the requirement for a contractor to ensure the payment of wages and setting of hours of work that are commensurate with the standard in a particular trade or industry. The provision for the Chief Labor Officer, in the absence of existing standards, to consult with representatives of workers and employers to establish fair wages and conditions of employment. Certification by the contractor that the terms and conditions offered to employees are fair and reasonable. A mechanism for dispute resolution in the case of a dispute concerning wages and working conditions. The maintenance by the contractor of records concerning wages and time worked by employees. The prohibition of subletting, the transfer, or reassignment of a contract or a portion of it without the prior approval of the Chief Labor Officer. The prohibition of homework, except where such is the custom or practice within the industry. Recognition of the right of employees to be members of a trade union. The conditions that are to be met to facilitate payment to a contractor, and the binding of subcontractors to conform to all conditions in the main contract and to which the main contractor is held, and the responsibility of the main contractor to ensure that their subcontractors abide by said conditions. The ILO opines that the objectives of C-94 are twofold. The first objective is to eliminate labor costs being used as an element of competition among bidders for public contracts by requiring that all bidders respect, at the minimum, country-specific established standards. The second objective is to assure that public contracts do not exert a downward pressure on wages and working conditions. That is, workers employed under public contracts are entitled to receive wages and enjoy working conditions that are no less favorable than those established for the same work in the area where the work is being done. Collective agreements, arbitration awards, and the national laws and regulations are described as being important in establishing equality regarding wages and conditions of work. The principles underpinning ILO Convention C-94 remain of relevance today. As a matter of fact, the ILO Committee of Experts on the Application of Conventions and Recommendations in 2007 was moved to say, in light of globalization and intense competition, and I quote, "The objectives of the convention are even more valid today than they were 60 years ago." end quote. Issues found in the local context. Due to our inspections as a ministry, as well as from reports made to it, the Labor Department has become aware of certain malpractices in the industry. 3 of these are: 1, non-adherence to the fundamental principle of equal pay for work of equal value; 2, the misclassification of workers who are employees as subcontractors; and 3, the resulting breaking of the law with respect to deducting national insurance contributions and the remitting of those deductions along with the employer contributions. I have given clear instructions to the Chief Labor Officer and the Director of National Insurance that their respective inspectorates must intensify their efforts to ensure that the workers of this country are protected and that employers adhere to the legislation. Recently, it has been reported that in the construction sector, there are entities or contractors who are attempting to circumvent the law and seek to apply less than the set minimum rates. Some of these entities and contractors, we are informed, practice a business model where workers are employed to transport materials and equipment across the island and paid a rate which is below the national minimum, and are then told they must complete a certain number of trips per day or per week in order to earn a reasonable wage that would enable them to meet or exceed the minimum wage. This model could create a risk to the safety of the employee and the traveling public, as this type of approach encourages employees to travel on the roads in a manner that may endanger road users. Setting rates and conditions for the construction sector. The Barbados Workers Union and the shop stewards of C.O. Williams Construction Company have been striding and advocating for ensuring that taxpayers' dollars are not used to support situations where public contracts are unfairly granted to employers who pay workers less than reasonable rates and are then able to present bids that reflect the lower costs. Section 3 of the Labor Clauses Public Contracts Act provides that every public contract must be devised in accordance with the schedule to the Act. Paragraph 2 of the schedule stipulates that in the absence of established rates and conditions of work for a particular trade or industry, the Chief Labor Officer is authorized to consult with representatives of employers and employees to prepare and make available a schedule of fair and reasonable rates and conditions of employment for that trade or industry. In this context, the Barbados Workers Union and the Barbados Employers Confederation were engaged in the process of establishing fair wage rates for the construction sector. Those entities worked together to draw information on wage rates from existing negotiated collective agreements in the sector and compiled these rates through a tripartite process of consultation and discussion with the Chief Labor Officer. The process commenced in October 2022 and concluded in January 2023. The resulting schedule of rates sets out the floor rates that are to be applied for all work in the construction sector in the performing of public contracts. The schedule contains 8 groupings of work and rates, taking into account job categories, skill type, tasks performed, and the type of equipment operated where that applies. The established rates range from $8.50 per hour at the minimum to not less than $30 per hour at the maximum. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, to share just a few examples from each category. Category 1, maid or flag person, not less than $8.50 per hour. Category 2, general worker or pump assistant, not less than $11 per hour. Category 3, bobcat or small roller operator, not less than $14 per hour. Category 4, welder or electrician class B, not less than $16 per hour. Category 5, backhoe or low loader operator, not less than $19 per hour. Category 6, Caterpillar D6 bulldozer operator, not less than $23 per hour. Category 7, workshop foreman or Komatsu 450 excavator operator, not less than $25 per hour. Category 8, Caterpillar D9 or Komatsu D275 bulldozer operator, not less than $30 per hour. And this represents just examples of job functions in the various categories. With respect to conditions of work, the Safety and Health at Work Act is the law and will continue, by virtue of that fact, to form part of the conditions of employment in the construction sector. The Act and its already established regulations, along with the soon-to-be established regulation on providing guidance on the right to refuse dangerous tasks, are designed to help create a safe and healthy work environment for both employer and employee. Mr. Speaker, allow me to inform this chamber that we have approached some of the organizations that use best practice in the area of safety and health at work, and they have agreed to work with the ministry to assist smaller organizations that do not have the people, resources, and necessary skill sets to do all that is required for compliance. Other pieces of legislation that form part of the conditions of employment for all workers, including those in construction, and those working for employers who benefit from public contracts, include Holidays with Pay Act, Employment Prevention of Discrimination Act, Employment Sexual Harassment Prevention Act, Employment of Women Maternity Leave Act, and of course, the Employment Rights Act. As I mentioned before, and I am repeating it so that I am absolutely clear, under the Act, the Labor Clauses Public Contracts Act, rates of pay and conditions of work that must be followed by main contractors must also be adhered to by legitimate subcontractors. The main contractor is responsible for ensuring that subcontractors adhere to the rates and conditions. Additionally, I also repeat that the contractor shall not assign any portion of a contract to another party without the consent of the Chief Labor Officer. Mr. Speaker, the Labor Clauses Public Contracts Act and rates and conditions that have been set must be adhered to and used by all government ministries, departments, agencies, and school boards as they evaluate tenders and quotations from bidders. They must liaise with the Chief Labor Officer to ensure that all of the provisions of the Act are followed. I have spoken at some length about the process of setting rates and conditions for work, performed in the execution of a public contract. Our work in the construction sector is but the beginning. Other sectors will also be addressed. Mr. Speaker, I must also inform the House that work is well on the way in our effort to strengthen the existing Labor Clauses Public Contracts Act. Cabinet in 2022 approved draft instructions for the Office of the Chief Parliamentary Counsel to prepare amendments that will provide greater clarity to government ministries, departments, and agencies, contractors, and workers, while giving more teeth to the Office of the Chief Labor Officer, which administers the Act. The Chief Parliamentary Counsel has prepared a draft amendment bill, and that bill has been reviewed by the Barbados Employers Confederation and the shop stewards of C.O. Williams Construction and their union, the Barbados Workers Union. Coming out of those consultations, additional drafting instructions are being prepared for submission to the Cabinet so that the CPC can make the necessary amendments to the first draft. We really should not have to legislate good behavior, but the practices of some necessitates that government acts to protect workers from unscrupulous employers who, in order to satiate their greed, would wish to deprive their workers of reasonable conditions of work, correct classification, fair wages, and social protection. This bad behavior is what we Bajans call unfairness, and it must stop. Mr. Speaker, I'm obliged to you.
Resolution. Mr. Speaker, recommittal of government business. Order number 11. In the name of the Honourable Minister in the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, to move the passing of a resolution to approve the payment of an increased cost of living allowance to government pensioners.
Honourable for Christchurch, East Central.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. As you would recall, sir, we met on Tuesday and we were able to pass the resolutions to support the industrial settlement with the unions in relation to a range of officers across the public service. These resolutions today, sir, will support the increases in relation to pension, sir, for those public servants who've retired and therefore will receive a 2% increase in their pension allowance, sir, from April 1st of 2023. As you know, sir, as negotiations are settled, these rates move in line with existing public servants, and therefore this resolution is intended to be able to bring that to regularity. Of course, sir, this is consistent in a sense, sir, with respect to the fact that we have also in the budget increased the tax threshold for pensioners from $40,000 to $45,000, and therefore this increase in pension, at least with respect to public service pensioners, will bring some relief there. For the avoidance of any doubt, sir, and just for clarity, there have been some questions in relation to what is happening with respect to the national insurance pension, sir. And I just want to share with the public that clearly the National Insurance Board will determine, obviously, at the appropriate time, how pensions would move, given the performance of the portfolio and in line with what is happening with respect to the economy. I know that the National Insurance has been undergoing its national consultation, sir, in relation to pension reform, generally speaking, and therefore, at the appropriate time, those matters will be settled in the context of what is to be done with the greater set of reforms. But today, these resolutions, sir, speak to the increase as it relates to pensioners who are receiving a pension from the Treasury and the public service, and therefore there too will see an increase of 2% in relation to their pension, relative to the fact that the salaries negotiations, sir, were settled at 3%. As it relates to the rest of the order, sir, these are consistent with what we did on Tuesday, and therefore, with those settled, then it means then that from tomorrow, actually, sir, tomorrow, all of the rates of pay, all of the pensions now, sir, all of the allowances, sir, persons have received their $1,500 in addition to their allowances, sir. Those persons who do not get allowances, sir, and may be still subject to national insurance would have seen the deduction for national insurance as agreed with respect to with the unions. Payment was made on Wednesday, sir, and I do know that there may be some persons who are banking with the credit unions that may still yet to receive their monies, but between the bank and the credit union, sir, will be able to resolve that in short order, and therefore payments have been made in respect to what was discussed with the negotiated, sir, with the unions, and effective April 1st, then all public servants' salaries will increase by 3%. With respect to pensioners, their pensions will increase by 2% from April 1st, sir, and therefore I hope that this in a small way would allow persons to plan a little better, things get a little easier, sir. We are still trying to make sure that we can contain as far as possible the cost of living with the measures that we are continuing, and therefore this really just represents an opportunity for persons to get a little more money, and hoping that it will go a long way, sir, with respect to easing a lot of the stress that we've experienced, sir, over the last few years, particularly given COVID and what's happening with respect to the war and everything that pertains to that. And so, sir, with those very few words, I beg to move that this resolution do now pass.
The question is that the resolution do now pass. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. This resolution stands passed. Honourable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move the suspension of the House until 11:30 a.m.
The question is that this chamber be suspended until 11:30 a.m. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against it, please say no. Meeting, the ayes have it. This honourable chamber is suspended until 11:30 a.m. This sitting is resumed.
Order number 9, sir. In the name of the Honourable Minister in the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, to move the second reading of the Public Procurement Amendment Bill 2023.
Honourable for Christchurch East Central.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to start this debate on this public procurement amendment. Clear in my own mind, sir, that whilst we've done the major bill in 2021, that these amendments here, whilst not as not regarded as a major overhaul, sir, give very specific direction in terms of what the government has contemplated since we passed the major bill. And the members of the public would have heard the Prime Minister and others speak about our perspective in terms of how we engage state to state at one level. And whilst the original bill contemplated our engagement with state to state procurement, that we recognize that in pursuit of that type of procurement, sir, that we should ensure that the necessary provisions are in place such that the appointed agents of the state who will actually execute the procurement, that the bill should contemplate that as a reality rather than just the states acting in their own right. And the example that comes to mind quite clearly, sir, relates to our policy in terms of how we engage with respect to offshore mining, if you like, sir, whether for oil or natural gas, that whilst Barbados has an entity, the Barbados National Oil Company, which, as you are aware, sir, pursued a drilling program onshore. We actually don't have any specific expertise, sir, with respect to offshore exploration. And therefore, as part of our strategy with respect to being able to unlock resources, it is important that we have the right architecture, if you like, sir, in place, such that we engage with those countries who have particular expertise in this area, and to allow specific agents acting on their behalf to be able, in collaboration, clearly, sir, with the government of Barbados, to be able to access those resources. And therefore, what is contemplated here is just gives very specific direction to that, because whilst the original bill had contemplated state-to-state procurement, and just for the benefit of the public, sir, when we were in the height of COVID, and we all pooled together under the African Supplies Medical Platform and the COVAX facilities, which were designed to pool the procurement of PPE, vaccines, and the like, sir. Those were arrangements that at a state-to-state level engage specifically with respect to how we will access those specific resources. But in the context of where you have a framework where governments are collaborating, but you need to appoint specific entities to be able to execute the specific procurement or service that you want to be able to do. The amendments here, sir, contemplate that each participating state, so Barbados and some other countries, sir, in the context of dealing with some type of offshore exploration, will be able to create a partnership where Barbados will appoint an agent. The other country, bilaterally, sir, appoints an agent, and those two entities will work together, obviously, to be able to deal with what it is we want to deal with respect to either whichever focus happens to be there. So the amendment of section 3.2 gives the specific direction and indication as to what would be contemplated where government, on the one hand, in the pursuit of that type of activity, would engage in state-to-state, yes, procurement. So we will say to specific partners, we want you to do X, and under X agreement, we both will appoint two parties to be able to act on our behalf, whether a government agency or a public or a private entity, to act on behalf of, in order to be able to pursue some joint procurement for a specific purpose. Why is this important, sir? Because as part of how we see an expedited procurement process, in some instances, that we could, in a sense, sir, jumpstart, notwithstanding the traditional approach with respect to having bid rounds and a whole range of activities, sir, which sometimes takes years to be able to come to a specific conclusion. This type of particular framework would allow us to, at a bilateral level, agree how we would pursue a specific engagement, who will be the specific agents acting on behalf of the government of Barbados and the partner country with respect to the pursuit of the procurement, and therefore allow us to be able to unlock the opportunity as we perceive. The reality is, sir, that whilst we are seeking to diversify and drive the economy, not just for growth, but certainly helping to transform the landscape, then we believe that this type of bilateral state-to-state procurement, as we may wish to refer to it, sir, is going to be important for leveraging the expertise that different countries may have with us, and that we may have, sir, with respect to providing opportunities with other countries to be able to do. Why is this? Whilst this is the example that I gave, sir, relates to the energy sector, but we have had, sir, since we started engagements with the African Exim Bank, for example, we have had interest with respect to entities like the NCF, sir, being able to provide, as well as BTMI, for that matter, providing tourism development services as well as cultural development expertise and services across West Africa. And therefore, our cultural attaché, who's resident in Accra, has been working, sir, to ensure that the government of Barbados, through those two entities, working together with entities in Western Africa, that we too can provide state-to-state procurement and deliver services, which allows us to be able to export our expertise, help develop within a specific and direct area, so it's not just people coming in to do stuff in our specific space, but also us being able to go out into the world. And certainly, as we have made a very, very, very strong effort to engage in opening up opportunities and spaces within the African continent, across the African continent, sir, that we see this as an example as how we can further open up opportunities for Barbadians, but equally, sir, for the government of Barbados to leverage its expertise in specific areas to help other agencies and government agencies and engaging in a level of state procurement that sees us being able to export the delivery of those services. And so those are just a couple of examples, sir, just to give some context as to what is intended. And therefore, the work is ongoing on both sides, sir, to be able to do that which we know we have our strengths and leverage those strengths. And equally, sir, we are seeking to leverage the strengths of others to be able to help us build up the expertise that we do not have within specific areas. And therefore, sir, this type of state-to-state collaboration with the appointment of specific entities to be able to act on behalf of the government, whether it is a state-owned enterprise or it could be a private enterprise, sir, given that we have a lot of challenges, whether it is with water, sir, or a range of areas, that the reality is that the countries collaborating and leveraging their expertise is going to be important, and therefore this just sets out what is intended to be a framework that allows us to be able to do that within the context of a public procurement process that is clearly defined. Now, sir, in addition, the amendment to Section 12, C and D, speaks to the promotion of sustainable development, sir, promoting socio-economic policies of government, and maximizing the economy and efficiency with respect to the public procurement. And I'll speak more about the implementation plans as it's going so far, because it is something that whilst we had done some preliminary training of the officers, that has intensified certainly, sir, over the last few weeks and months, to the extent that we are sufficiently confident that we are on our way with respect to being able to have the full implementation of the Public Procurement Act. Now, let me, at this stage, sir, speak to Section 85, which is being amended and speaks to the Register of Suppliers. So over the last 2 weeks, sir, there's at least 200 persons across the public service, sir, central government as well as state-owned enterprises, at least 200. The digital platform that will deliver, in a sense, and modernize the public procurement, sir, is a platform called Bonfire. And over the last 2 weeks, over 200 officers from across a range of agencies, sir, have gone through a 2-week training exercise. There was some online training before. As you know, we were just come out of COVID. Things were still a little bit in flux last year. And we intensified that training where 2 consultants came down to be able to lead that effort in order to ensure that the officers who will be charged with the responsibility of managing and publicizing the procurement of each entity have received further intense training with respect to their preparation. I attended I dropped in, I should say, on one of those sessions, and the officers were extremely excited at the idea that the management of the procurement process now will be much more efficient. And and that's why I want to focus on the efficiency, which is clause 3C, because the officers recognize that the ability to cascade information, sir, instantaneously, and to manage the process through which the information is sent to the registered suppliers, sir, makes their internal efforts a little easier, because it means that they can take queries and respond to those queries, sir, all in one go, without having to screen different calls and different sets of communication, such that it takes up the time with respect to being able to manage the process. And therefore, that, as a value added, is going to be something that is particularly important. But I also attended a second session, sir. The date escapes me now. So much has happened in the last few days, I don't remember. It was something last week, though, where some of the existing suppliers of service, a wide range of services to government, were present. And they were taking them through the process through which, sir, they would need to register. Now, sir, you've probably grown tired of me saying this. When all of us, sir, want a US visa, we have to go online and spend at least 45 minutes, sir, filling out that application form, which is perhaps the most arduous task that any of us would ever have to do if we want to go to the United States. The process, as shown to me and as shown to those who were present, to register, sir, takes less than 10 minutes. Less than 10 minutes. Why is this important, sir, for the registration? Is that when an entity, sir, goes online, enters their particulars about their company, sir, it means that in the future, you don't have to keep resubmitting, sir, the same information. So if you're submitting to different government departments, you have to submit your articles of incorporation and this and the next and third and all of these things, sir. Everywhere you go. And therefore, this process allows us to harmonize that single registration, sir, single registration, such that if you wanted, sir, to provide services to the Parliament of Barbados, and you register with the Government Procurement Department through Bonfire, sir, as a supplier, and you then decided that you wanted to provide some service, sir, to the National Assistance Board or some other entity, sir, you do not now have to go and present the same information to those entities when they put out a specific tender, and therefore this process allows everybody, sir, to be able to streamline what they're doing, because it means that procuring entities don't have to worry, sir, about having to check whether or not you or I are whether our details are correct or not. And imagine, sir, that you are an officer in the department receiving, sometimes, depending on what it is, sir, 10, 12, 15, 20, however many sets of documentation that people might be interested in doing a bid, and you have to sift through all of that information, sir, which takes up your time, which adds and costs time and effort and money to the procurement process, rather than having to just focus on the quality of the bids and all of that in terms of what is being submitted. So the supplier registration is important, sir, because it is a single sign-on process, single sign-on. You submit your information, it is stored in the system, sir, and any government department that puts any specific procurement notice up, and I say to suppliers, obviously you will get the opportunity, sir, to choose which things you want to do, because, sir, if you're not involved in construction, you're not necessarily interested in getting construction notices. If you are in construction, you're not interested in any of the other things that may be happening out there. So you have the opportunity, sir, on registration to determine whether you want to see everything that the government is putting on, or just the very things that you are limited, that you are interested in with respect to the process. So today is the last day of the financial year, sir. And the reason that we had that intense training for the officers, as well as the start of the sensitization for the suppliers, is that we will be doing what we call, sir, a soft launch over the next 6 months between April 1st and the end of September. A soft launch of Bonfire, sir, with respect to e-procurement. This period, sir, would allow all existing suppliers of government to register on Bonfire, sir, and to get a feel for what is happening. Ministries and departments will be putting out things on Bonfire in order to be able to test the internal processes, because as you would appreciate, sir, this will mean a change of process for government. It also means a change of process for those persons who are accustomed to supplying government. And therefore, over the next 6 months, as the departments and the suppliers ease their way into navigating the system, you're going to start to see, sir, an acceleration of the e-procurement cycle. And when I attended the seminar with the suppliers last week, sir, one of them asked me if we were still going to see the stuff advertised in the paper, as you do. Of course, they can still be, because, you know, over a certain threshold, you need to put things into the public space in terms of for official tenders. And yes, you will still see stuff advertised in the paper, but the mechanism through which you will supply the information will direct you to the online space. Now, I anticipate, sir, that over time, people ain't gonna be really checking the paper anymore, because once you're registered and you can select what you want to receive in your email, sir, or you go on the portal and you can check whatever is available. Once you log in, you see everything that is available there in the same way that, and I say in the same way. The truth is, sir, if you publish it in Wednesday paper and you read Wednesday paper, you might not catch it. But because it's online, whenever you go online, well, sorry, let me say this first. If you, based on what you select, and a notice goes up, you will be alerted via your email that there's a specific opportunity by Department X that fits your interest. So it don't matter whether it invents the paper, you don't see it, or the Sunday paper, you don't see it, sir, you can get an email, so long as it's a valid email that you provide, you can get it. When you choose to read the email, sir, it's entirely up to you. But it will come to your email as registered to allow you, sir, to determine whether you can respond to it or not. So, yes, they were going to still have some stuff in the paper, but I want to urge Barbadians that the paper is not the only mechanism through which you will see tenders being published. And it's important to understand, to communicate with the public, that as we modernize and change things, it is really to improve your access. It really is to improve your access. So if you ain't got the Sunday paper, or you don't have the Wednesday paper, or whichever paper that the people choose to put it in, because as you will see, sir, sometimes it's got a full page, sometimes it's got a quarter page, sometimes it's got a little thing there, and you might miss it, even though it's published. And what we're trying to do is to ensure, sir, that what you select as your interest, that you receive. And it will come into your inbox, sir, and therefore we take away that analog part where somebody got to call you and tell you, well, you see the thing published in the paper. It will go to the email, sir, that you have determined that you want to receive tenders from. And therefore, I want to encourage all Barbadians who are interested in participating in supplying government, that when the government procurement department, sir, puts the platform over the next couple of weeks live for people to register. And it's a very simple process. It really is a very simple process. You register, you get on board, and therefore you will start to see, as departments populate with information, you're going to start to see things gradually ramp up. Now, all of this is to say, sir, that this effort really is to help improve and open up the space for public procurement. And the extent to which entities, in this first instance, I think will have the opportunity to, one, not have to run down Fontainebleau, sir, by 4:30 with 3 printed copies, sir. You know the thing, sir. Running about, you get the traffic tight up, coming down Colma Rock, and you're sweating, sir, trying to figure out if you can get down the road in time. All of that, sir, will come to an end, because you don't have to worry, sir, about that part of it. You just focus on getting your bid submitted, sir, online in the portal. That will be only only you will have access to your part of the report because you're interested, sir, in what I select. You're interested in what any other member here select. But all of that hassle, sir, of dropping in those 3 copies and all of the stress and seal envelopes and all this type of thing, sir, which at the end of the day, I know that some people just make some money with this printed thing. The reality is that there's modernizing means that we have to do things differently, and therefore making it easier, sir, easier to do business with government. This is an important step for doing that, but equally, sir, with respect to opening up opportunities here with respect to where we are going. Now, come October 1st, sir, come October 1st, all government departments, all state-owned enterprises, sir, all, sir, and I repeat myself, all government departments, all state-owned enterprises, all, sir, all, come October 1st, will be required to complete the procurement online only. And the reason that as I said, we're given this 6 months period is for every single person who is currently registered in the traditional way, you'll be able to go online and you register once. Online and you register once. Thereafter, what you select as your interest, you will be able to, as government departments populate, sir, you will be able to see those notifications and you get to respond to the things that you want to respond to. The reason that this is important, sir, is because as we seek to harmonize everything, so that if you're at a state-owned enterprise, I know that there may be persons who do very specific things because of the nature of the nature of the mandate of that state-owned enterprise. All of those suppliers, sir, will be required to register with the government procurement department on bonfire. We have acquired the licenses, sir. We will give the licenses to the state-owned enterprises, sir, and they will, within the context of publishing the information that is required, sir, will use the same portal as the government department to be able to put this stuff out there. Now, as I said, sir, it does not in any way prevent persons from continuing in the way that they do their normal, in the sense of, it does not, this process does not disadvantage anybody. It only allows for people to get more information with respect to what is happening with respect to the procurement process across all government departments. So this next 6 months, sir, is the pilot or testing. So the departments will get familiar with what they have to do in real time and practice and figure some stuff out. The suppliers, sir, will decide what they want, and people will be able to see what they want, sir, on the portal, and be able to determine whether it is 3 o'clock in the morning, sir, or you feel it submitting your bid at 3 o'clock in the morning, you can submit your bid at 3 o'clock in the morning, sir, rather than having to run down for Honourable or wherever you got to run about Barbados, sir, to be able to submit your bid. Now, the truth is, sir, it means that there's less gas, fuel tax being collected in that respect, and less pollution, right? Which is good. So, as consistent with our sustainable development goals, this is really going to this is really going to be significant, because the truth is, sir, it is a cost of business. And anything that the government could do to lower the cost of doing business, so if you can lower the cost on the procurement side, you can get some efficiencies on that side. It means, however small, sir, however small, I know that cumulatively it is going to make a significant difference to the way that things are done. And the truth is, sir, as government departments also publish their procurement plans. As during the estimates process, persons came into the Well of Parliament and indicated the things that they were planning to do during the year. As entities publish their procurement plans, sir, there may be something that a department might put up that it wants to do in October. And they could put that up, sir, from April 1st because they have monies voted for it, sir. All the information is relevant for that, and they will put it out there, but it doesn't go live, sir, until perhaps 6 weeks or so before. You see what I'm saying? 6 weeks before, where people then are required then to officially indicate whether they want to bid or not, and you take those questions and whatever it is. So this really does give flexibility such that the publication of the procurement plans allows for better process flow, better management, sir, in relation to how this thing is done. So, as I said, the key here is providing people with relevant and timely information that will allow the bidders to be able to do that which they know they want. Don't they have the time to, sir, to be able to procure? Now, what is critical here, sir, is that there is specific information, obviously, that you have to supply to the register. And therefore, that legal information is thing. But as I said, you do this once. But what is important here is that every year, the procurement department will say to Barbadians, hey, this is the supply register. This is what you can do or should do if you are interested in supplying government with goods and services. And therefore, this process would allow you to get onto the register. And getting onto the register means then, sir, that, as I said, you will get those opportunities that exist within government. Now, there's an additional phase, sir, on top of that. And I'll speak to this very briefly because I think it is equally important. Whilst we are opening up all opportunities that it relates to Barbados, the procurement department, sir, in two ways. Because of the CARICOM protocol, sir, with respect to procurement, there's a threshold over which all tenders over 300,000, I believe, sir, across CARICOM are required to be published in everybody's country. So if there's an opportunity in St. Lucia, Jamaica, whatever that meets the criteria, sir, that opportunity will be published on Bonfire for obviously the entity over Innovative. To give you the specifics on that. And you being a supplier here in Barbados, sir, will get that additional information through the portal that also allows you to see whether or not you want to participate in procurement outside of Barbados. Now, in a previous life, sir, I used to do a little bit of consulting, and I can tell you, sir, there are a lot of opportunities in the Caribbean, and internationally for that matter. And so the procurement department will be pulling those resources from both the regional as well as the international space to be able to populate, sir, into the dashboard, for lack of a better term, sir, so that as a Barbadian business, and you will forgive me, sir, because there are some who don't understand that growth means that you got to do things outside in order to grow the pie. But as a Barbadian business, sir, bringing these opportunities to people digitally provides opportunities for Barbadian businesses, sir, to be able to do business outside of Barbados. And therefore, that is a value added that we want to ensure that we can get resolved in the shortest possible time, because there are a range of international opportunities, and therefore being registered on the procurement platform, which is free, sir. It's free. Well, at the point of delivery, it's free. It is free. It is free. Being registered would mean that there are additional opportunities beyond what the government of Barbados is doing in relation to procurement. And I hope that persons will avail themselves of said opportunities, because in facilitating business, it is not just the upgrade of the procurement process that we are doing here. From a management perspective for departments and suppliers, but equally, sir, providing additional opportunities either within CARICOM or within the international space as they arise, and therefore registration, sir, is important to be able to have access to those things. I remember, sir, as a consultant, I up scoring all kinds of dashboards, sir, as part of my thing, because you bid in Barbados, sir, you bid in the region, you bid internationally, you win some, you win some, you win some, you win some. And you win some. But if you don't know, sir, if you don't know in time, then you can't pull together the team that you need to be able to pull together in order to go, present a case, win the business, and come back home and know that you've done a good job, sir, being able to fly the flag of Barbados, wherever that is. And therefore, I want to encourage businesses, and there was one query at the session, sir, where persons thought that somehow opening up this thing was going to make it easier for people on the outside to do stuff in Barbados. And I said, well, yes, it does that. But there's nothing that prevents anybody from outside from bidding for anything right now. It might be a little harder, meaning they got to see the stuff in the Sunday paper or the Wednesday paper. But people do that, sir, because there's artificial intelligence that scrapes these things, which allows people to be able to publish these things internationally. And therefore, we know in modernizing our procurement process, we must turn it the other way around and not be concerned about people from the outside coming. We need, as Barbadian suppliers, to be able to go out and compete with anybody else in the world. And therefore, I am absolutely confident, sir, that yes, opening up may mean more competition, but opening up in this way, by bringing additional opportunities to Barbadian businesses, will allow them to make the best possible decision, sir, I believe, to be made in their interest. And so I believe, sir, that this is going to be important. So the publication of the supply register, so the department, the government procurement department, sir, formerly known as central purchasing, which I think most of the public might be more familiar, will perform that role, sir, of being able to manage, if you like, not just government's procurement process, but bringing opportunities, additional opportunities for suppliers in Barbados to be able to help expand their business, grow the business, sir, and to be able to employ more Barbadians, sir. Yeah, because if you're able to do business overseas, or have the opportunity to do business overseas, sir, then it means that there's all the potential to be able to expand domestically and to be able to do more outside of Barbados. So the publication of the register and what is required to be on the register is going to be important. Equally, sir, sir, in a real way, all of us in here went through a procurement process. It's an interesting one because you had to make yourself known, sir, to the persons who wanted your services. And the extent to which we were ranked, sir, and I dare say, sir, we were ranked favorably by the public twice, sir, is really something that we must understand, that if you don't lift your game, sir, if you don't offer the best possible service that you can give given the circumstances, sir, then you'll be found wanting. And that's why I said, sir, that with all of this, when all of us came to this place, sir, you know that the returning officer said that the duly elected member for Christchurch is essential, is XYZ. In the same way, sir, tenders managed through the bonfire platform. So if all 30 of us in here, sir, applied for, I don't know, let's say, sir, all 30 of us determined that we wanted to polish the chairs here in Parliament, sir, then imagine the clerk of Parliament going through the portal, checking to see whether I'm a good sander, whether you are a good varnisher, sir, whatever the thing is, sir, the ranking, and will say that the honourable member for St. Thomas won the bid. And all of us will see that the honourable member for St. Thomas won the bid. But what we will also recognize, sir, is that maybe one of us didn't get the email, or we saw the email when the Parliament put out the notice and did not respond. So you will see a list of persons who responded to the bid, sir, and you will see who won the bid. So that the entire process is designed, sir, to be as open as possible. Now, if I happen to feel that I was a better varnisher than the member for St. Thomas, sir, I could appeal. Which the Act allows for that process to happen, the internal review. In terms of that, there will be an appeals process. But this process that we are going through here, sir, is really one where transforming the way that procurement is done is important. I know that no matter what you do, sir, there's some people who will never believe that you can actually submit something, and people look at it, which there's the tenders committee, the evaluation committees, all of these things are done in a way, sir, that is open. For those persons who submitted, it's open there, sir. And you rank the bids, you look at the technical proposals, you look at the financial proposals, sir, because as is the case, the procuring entity has to ensure that whoever is going to win the thing can actually deliver the thing, and therefore the service or provide the goods, or if they're doing capital works, that they can do those works. And it is a process through which I think both the procuring entity, sir, as well as the public would need to get or fare with, because more information will be provided with respect to the quality of the bids, who won the tenders, and therefore that is something that would happen. Now, incidentally, sir, at the moment, all procurement that is done funded by multilaterals are published. If you win a specific tender or supply funded by a multilateral agency, are already published on their platforms. All we're doing is just cascading that now across the rest of government, and therefore allowing for greater openness and transparency with respect to who has done what, where, when, and the like. Having said that, sir, I am just mindful, and I know, I'm saying this in this way because we have compiled, sir, all of those contracts that the Prime Minister had indicated we would lay in the Parliament that were executed during COVID, over $1 million. And within the next two weeks, sir, probably the next sitting of Parliament, those contracts will be laid in Parliament, as we said that we will do. But what will happen is that going forward, because the procurement is managed in a relatively standard way, it means that there will be standard bid documents, sir. There will be standard, in a sense, contracts for most procurement, and therefore, with respect to the publication of these things, as awards are published and the legal paperwork is taken care of, then that will allow even for faster preparation of the contract, so to speak, sir, because there will be standardized legal contracts for the most part. Only thing that will change really would be the specifics of the scope of works in terms of what is required to be done, and obviously quantums. And that really is one of the efficiencies of where this thing will come. So part of the reason that this thing is taking so long, in part, is and I'm no offense, sir, but things just take a little long legally. But by standardizing the bid documents, the contracts, and doing it in this way, then all of those issues in terms of the legal process and the back and forth, sir, will dissipate, because we'll be able to, when a department wants to do something, it means that it is managed, it's processed such that they can issue the tender, get all of the legal, issue the tender, go through the process of awarding the contracts, get the contract signed because standard legal documentation is in place, and therefore allow us to be able to get on, sir, with respect to the execution of the projects. And that is where we intend to go, and therefore these amendments are intended really just to make sure that we are on solid ground with respect to those things. Now, obviously, sir, if there's anything that happens to change your circumstance after registration, then you're obligated, sir, to let the procurement department know, because you possibly, this is I hope, an extreme example, but sir, certainly I would like to think that if someone had to file for bankruptcy or insolvency, they wouldn't try to continue to present themselves as being capable of delivering the service. And therefore, the clause here, 87.1, speaks to material changes in your circumstance in terms of supply. So there's an obligation, sir, to be able to indicate to the procurement department if anything changes materially with respect to your business and clearly your ability to be able to supply the good or service or the works or whatever it is that that you have previously registered to do. And as part of the process, sir, there will be an annual, in a sense, sir, an annual kind of renewal, just to make sure that you attest, sir, that, because it's all online, so you will attest, yes, everything is fine, good to go, so that there's no running around to, different departments trying to get things done, and therefore being able to manage this process relatively easily. And now, just bear in mind, sir, that because your name might at any point in time appear on the supplier's register, yeah? And this is just saying that these are the companies that supply to government. That doesn't mean that there's not an endorsement of government of your specific service. It's just saying that you're registered to do business with government through this specific portal. All of that information in the background obviously will be assessed based on the procuring entities and your capability to be able to do stuff. The truth is, sir, that in managing this process of procurement moving forward, issues in relation to pre-qualification and those types of things, again, all managed online. And we are going to be, as we're doing this digital version in terms of the e-procurement, there are elements of the rules that will speak to green procurement with respect to entities. So as we seek to promote the sustainable development agenda, then obviously all procuring entities will need to adopt a green procurement process, whereby obviously you want to be able to do things sustainably, and therefore in doing things sustainably, you want those suppliers as well, potentially, sir, depending on obviously the specifics of what is the procurement need, that they too will adopt, as far as possible, sir, a green procurement perspective. But those will be articulated, sir, in the rules, as opposed to specifically here. Now, I hope, sir, that I've been able to explain to the public the importance of this next phase, because the next 6 months would allow, as I said earlier, sir, suppliers to register on Bonfire, receive notifications online as departments put stuff up on there for them to make sure their internal processes are correct and manage the procurement processor. Bring more opportunities to Barbadian businesses with respect to the procurement process, and allow for all of Barbados to know and to see that whilst we are modernizing, sir, that the opportunities for greater transparency and openness in the process will be there. And therefore have confidence then, or have greater confidence that the management of the procurement process is being done in such a way that allows for ordinary Barbadians to fully participate. Now you would recall, sir, that within this framework, and as persons register, for example, and you see the specifics on the portal, in order for us to be able to track, sir, and see from a global level whether we are able to meet our targets, because we are not currently, our systems at the moment don't allow us to do it cleanly. When you register, sir, if you're a person with disability, sir, there's an option to select that as part of your profile. Sir, if you're a business owned by a young person, sir, under 35, you'll be able to select that, sir, so that the data from inception, so that we can track government policy, sir, as it relates to the objectives that we set out with respect to being able to enfranchise persons. So what we are seeking to do, sir, is to ensure that globally, that we're able to track to see how effective government's policy has been with respect to the 1% of procurement for persons with disabilities, the 5% with respect to the small businesses businesses owned by persons less than 35, and strategically, sir, make sure that we use the system either through very specific restricted tendering, depending on the nature of it, to be able to achieve those objectives. Now, let me say, sir, that whilst I know that it may not be possible for every entity to necessarily meet those thresholds that we have identified as part of their procurement, what the government department will do in collaboration, certainly with the Ministry of Finance, is to look globally to see how across the entire scope of procurement, whether within services, goods, or capital works, to see exactly how we are performing in relation to meeting these thresholds. And we will be very deliberate, sir, with respect to how we're able to achieve those targets in order to ensure that the enfranchisement mechanism that we've put in, that we can actually track it and make sure that we at least are getting close, if not exceeding, those specific things. The systems that, as it stands at the moment, sir, in terms of data, all government departments treat data differently. And we are changing that now with respect to procurement, which is why everybody has to register with the government procurement department. And as the procurement process is managed through Bonfire, then we will be able to see, sir, based on the awards, or based on who's tendering in the first instance, whether or not the persons who are tendering at least are within those demographics, if you like, to first determine was the capacity to be even reach the 1% or the 5% or that type of threshold. And if, as we are tracking that over time, then we will be able to know, okay, what further enfranchisement needs we may need to pursue by using the structure of the procurement deliberately to be able to meet those targets. And therefore, I hope that within the next 18 months to 2 years, sir, I should be able to report exactly how things are looking based on the data in terms of us being able to achieve those targets, because as it stands right now, it is virtually impossible to tell what Department X versus SOEY versus whoever is doing with respect to procurement, because simply the data is not managed in that way for us to be able to verify easily whether or not we're actually meeting those targets. So this implementation of Bonfire and the new procurement processes would allow us to be able to track whether our policy objectives, sir, are being met. And if they are not being met, sir, how do we then use the same procurement rules and procurement framework to ensure that we can meet those policy thresholds within the context of our procurement process. And so, sir, these amendments here today, really, as I said, just to refine the act. The pilot starts, I know tomorrow is April 1st, All Fools Day, as people will say, but the pilot officially starts from tomorrow. And as departments put up stuff, sir, I encourage everybody, as soon as the procurement goes live, sir, register. Register. Teams will be available to go and support state-owned enterprise and departments to be able to help, even though people have come in, just to make sure the implementation, getting the licenses and everything in place, and therefore we are ready to go, sir, with respect to implementing this process. I can't say to you, if you put in the wrong email, sir, then obviously you can get the notification. So when you're doing your setup, and what will happen, the first thing that would alert you, sir, is if your email is thespeaker@gmail.com, sir, just for example, and somehow you put in speaker with 2 R's, when you sign up, sir, on signing up, it will attempt to send you an email there. And if after a while you don't see it because you somehow misspelled it, then obviously it means that you have submitted the wrong email address. So these little things matter. So therefore, getting the information right up front is important. And as suppliers or potential suppliers of government, you're responsible for providing that information. And it is that information, sir, that will be used. The information that you provide will be the information that is used to give you any communication from any procuring entity on the portal. And therefore, you have the responsibility to ensure that the information that you provide is accurate, and therefore would allow us to be able to get this thing going. And so, sir, I am happy that we've reached this stage. It's taken a little longer than I certainly anticipated, but I believe that this is the opportunity for all of Barbados to see that government's procurement is being managed in a responsible way, in an open way, and I encourage all persons who are interested in supplying to government to register early, and therefore get on board with respect to improving the management of the government's procurement. And with those very few words, sir, I beg to move that this bill be read a second time. Second. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move further consideration of this bill be postponed until another time, until a later date.
Further consideration of this bill be postponed. All those who are members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. Honourable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move the suspension of the House until 3:30 p.m.
Question is that this honourable chamber be suspended until 3:30 p.m. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. This honourable chamber stands suspended until 3:30 p.m.